Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified Doctor of Naturopathy, Dr. Stephen Cabral, shares with you exactly how you can reverse aging, take back your health, and live a life full of energy and passion, with new 20-minute episodes every single day to keep you healthy and engaged. Now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here today with episode 2861 of the Cabral Concept. For all the show notes and the research links, head on over to stephencabral.com/2861. I want to go over a show based on if you're lowering your carbs, why you need to increase protein, but with a big caveat to that, meaning that people that are lowering their carbs and increasing their protein, but only doing that without a certain exercise component, may actually be doing detrimental harm to the metabolism as well. So this is a research study that I used to reference, and it was really important. It's a lot of how we based our original Fatlocity weight loss system, and going back literally to the late 90s and early 2000s. And the study, this is based off many other studies that came before it, but what I wanted to share with you is the objective of the weight loss study and what they used and what they found. So again, I'll link this up for you. Really simple, really straightforward. It was published in Sports Medicine Journal. So I'm going to read it to you, just the excerpt, and then I'm going to go through what it means for you and why there's three vital components when you're trying to lose weight without losing muscle mass or decreasing your metabolism. So the foremost objective of a weight loss trial has to be the reduction in body fat, leading to a decrease in risk factors for metabolic syndrome. However, a concomitant decline in lean tissue can frequently be observed, given that fat-free mass, which is FFM, represents a key determinant of the magnitude of resting metabolic rate, RMR. It follows that a decrease in lean tissue could hinder the progress of weight loss. Therefore, with respect to a long-term effectiveness of weight loss programs, the loss of fat mass while maintaining fat-free mass and resting metabolic rate seems desirable. All right, there's one more paragraph, but I have to take a break to try to make sense of all of that for people that might be new to what is fat-free mass? What is resting metabolic rate? Okay, I did a previous podcast and I want to link up to it today, so head on over to stephencabral.com/2861. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can literally just go to stephencabral.com or Stephen Cabral and then type in episode 2861 and it should pop up as well. So this is really important that when the Biggest Loser TV show was done, I did a research. I looked up the research on this and the follow-up from it, and it was absolutely atrocious as to what happened to their metabolism, meaning their metabolism dropped by like 500 to 700 calories per day. That's essentially a meal. So the people on The Biggest Loser lost a large amount of their resting metabolic rate. And so when they would ever go back to not exercising for 6 hours a day or going back to a normal amount of calories, they would just start to gain the weight back even easier than they had before. So really important factor to look into that. Why does it matter? Well, when you're looking to lose body fat, you actually want it to be body fat. This is another issue I have with all of the weight loss drugs that are coming out, right? So you've probably heard about them before, the Wegovy, the Ozempic, etc. So I don't have something specific against people wanting to use pharmaceuticals in order to attain results. I'm not saying that. The issue is this, is that it's not necessarily differentiating fat loss versus muscle loss. And if you're losing a lot of muscle, what happens is you're lowering your metabolic rate. And that means eventually over time, you need to eat less and less or move your body more and more in order to balance metabolic thermogenesis or basically calories in, calories out. So that's what fat-free mass is basically. Think of it as muscle tissue, and resting metabolic rate, think of that as the amount of calories that you can eat per day to maintain your weight. And you actually want that to be quite high. You would rather have a resting metabolic rate of 2,000 calories, for most people would, rather than 1,200. And that's because if you ever ate more than 1,200 calories and didn't expend the excess and exercise, you'd gain weight. Whereas if you could eat 2,000 calories a day, great. Then you can eat 2,000 calories a day and enjoy more food. But again, it's also based on the size of the individual. All right, so now let me read the final paragraph and essentially how this is resolved. So, diet intervention studies suggest spontaneous losses in body weight following low-fat diets, and current data on a reduction on the carbohydrate to protein ratio of the diet show promising outcomes. Exercise training is associated with an increase in energy expenditure, thus promoting changes in body composition and body weight while keeping dietary intake constant. The advantages of strength training may have greater implications than initially proposed with respect to decreasing body fat and sustaining fat-free mass. Research to date suggests that the addition of exercise programs to dietary restriction can promote more favorable changes in body composition than diet or physical activity on its own. Moreover, recent research indicates that the macronutrient content of the energy-restricted diet may influence body compositional alterations following exercise regimens. Protein emerges as an important factor for the maintenance of or increase in fat-free mass induced by exercise training. Changes in RMR, resting metabolic rate, can only partly be accounted for by alterations in respiring tissues and other yet undefined mechanisms to be explored. Okay, so what does all that mean? So again, I wanted to read to you the science, but some of it's not clear yet, but much of it is clear. So you can lose weight by decreasing, you can go on a low-fat diet. You can lose weight by going on a low-carb diet. What they're saying is, in order to preserve fat-free mass, you need to get enough protein. And that's the truth. Now, I've given different sides of the protein-based debate, but you know that on this show, on the Cabral Concept, it's always going to be unbiased. And what we've done in terms of forever, so forever my time, I've been doing this now 25 years, has been whenever we put someone on a lower carbohydrate diet initially in order to help with body transformation, the protein has to go up. And here's why. Okay, let's say you're going on a lower carbohydrate diet because you want the immediate effects of weight loss, you want the initial water weight loss, you want all of those things. All right, what we need to do, and a lot of people overlook this, there's two parts to it, and you want weight training to be a part of it, but I want to come back to that in just a moment. Okay, so if you are decreasing your overall calories, you're not going to probably totally negate 600, 700 calories a day. You're actually going to lower your total calories. Maybe it's 250, maybe it's up to 500. Great. But what you're probably going to do is not, you're going to lower fat or you're going to lower carbohydrates. Most people will go with carbs. Okay. So now what we have to do though is also increase protein then so that we're actually eating some food at a meal, right? Like you can't just eat avocados for all your meals. So now what an individual is doing, they're typically going on maybe a predominantly low calorie, high nutrient dense vegetable with some good healthy fats like olive oil or mac nuts, macadamia nuts, or avocados, and they're having a lean protein. Okay. So very simple, very straightforward. Now, what we have to understand is that in order to be able to still fuel the body, protein requirements go up. So it goes up for two reasons. One is you're going to get amino acids, and we'll talk about the exercise repair in just a moment. So more amino acids in order to do two things. One, repair muscle after exercise, but also preserve muscle mass. So muscle, they do need two things. Muscle needs, it needs all three macros, but predominantly it needs carbohydrates, it needs glucose, okay, but it also needs amino acids. And so the interesting thing is that protein could supply, as needed, carbohydrates, so it can supply its own glucose because it can break down amino acids. It can start to use a process called gluconeogenesis. I've talked about this before in the show, and it can supply the amino acids. That's why post-workout, into the future, it's never made sense to me to do protein only because your body's just going to use some of that protein as carbohydrates. So why not use a carbohydrate-sparing drink or food, whatever you'd like to do, and then add the protein. I mean, again, you can choose to do what you want, but this is extremely important because what happens is, and I'm going to touch on this right now, when people go on a diet and they don't weight train, but they still increase protein, it doesn't have the same effect. And I talked about this, and I'm going to link up this other podcast. When people do a 16-8 intermittent fast, they are losing muscle mass if they are not doing 2 to 3 weight training sessions per week. And it was shocking in the research how much more muscle they lost than fat on a 16-8 intermittent fast without weight training. So it really comes down to this. If you are looking to lose body fat and you are looking to transform your body, you need 2 to 3 weight training sessions per week. Now, even though it said exercise training, in this study, it's strength training. Why does that matter? Because going for a run can actually be catabolic. Yes, it burns calories. Yes, it can bring down glucose levels. I'm not against cardio, but you should do something that actually increases fat-free mass or at least preserves it, and that's strength training. It doesn't have to be backbreaking. You can do a 20 to 30-minute strength training workout Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Try to, keep a day off in between, but try to keep it going. No more than 2 days off in between. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. One of those has always worked phenomenally well with my clients. I talk about it in the Rain Barrel Effect. It's simple. It's straightforward. You can just choose 5 exercises, do 2 to 3 sets each. You're done in 20 to 30 minutes. It's simple. It's straightforward. 2 things that happen from that. 1, you break down some glycogen. Great. You can now actually replenish that. Your body can use that for fuel and not turn to body fat. The other thing is when you eat the protein or the carbohydrates, it's going to go to refilling muscle stores. It's going to go to repairing the muscle tissue and keeping fat-free mass up. And the study quotes that if you keep fat-free mass up and you do strength training, you increase resting metabolic rate. All this to say is that ultimately, if you want to be able to lose weight, but keep it off forever to make it sustainable, you need to do weight training. Yes, get your steps in, your cardio, no doubt about it. You're going to have proper nutrition, but you need to elevate your metabolism. And not everybody, but many people are preaching dieting yourself into the oblivion and reducing fat-free mass, which they don't know is happening. Because when you look in the scale from taking a weight loss drug, I lost 10 pounds. I lost 15 pounds in 2 months, 3 months. This is working amazingly well. Is it? Right? Is it? I don't know. All of these wonder-based drugs, a lot of times it's a short-term fix. You take the biological drug for your rheumatoid arthritis or autoimmune, there's no more pain. Okay, but what are the side effects a year, 2 years, 10 years down the road, right? You take this weight loss drug, you lost 15, 20, 30 pounds. Amazing. What are the side effects down the road? What are the gut-based issues? What about the gastroparesis? What about the loss in fat-free mass? What about the reduction in your resting metabolic rate? The amount of calories that you may ever be able to eat for the rest of your life unless you put back on that fat-free mass. So I just wanted to share something for you. I know we also have a lot of practitioners who listen to the show. Just kind of keep this in the back of your mind too. When you're teaching your clients, when you're building these programs, there's nothing wrong with, in the short term, a lower carb diet, or if you choose a lower fat diet, however you want to get there. But with the understanding that once you start to build up the metabolism, you can ease those carbs back in, and you should, because of all the benefits in the gut flora, in the thyroid, in the reduction of cortisol, in the sleep, in the mood, and so much more. So eventually we need to come back to a somewhat balanced macronutrient ratio in order for people to be able to live a healthy, a loving, and a thriving-based life. So hopefully this was helpful. I've got a few other podcasts. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I have a few podcasts that I want to link up for you here today. And you can find those at StephenCabral.com/2861. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Love to do a follow-up show if I can help in any way. Take care, everybody. Feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rainbarrel.